And good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are around the world. I am Marcus Holmes, the HR Passion Guy, and I want to welcome you to yet another installment of Passion Fridays, where people are passionate about topics, where we bring passionate topics forward, and where people and their passions intersect. I am so excited to be here. I am on the northwest side of Detroit, where the temperature is in the 20s. So someone somewhere around the world, please send me a gust of great warm weather, please. Drop in the comments whether you are on LinkedIn Live, where is the home today, or you are with us via restream on YouTube events, Twitch TV, on the Marcus R. Holmes on Facebook, or in the Love and Stuff community page. Drop in the comments where you are around the world and what the temperature is like where you are. Hopefully you can send me a gift of the gust of wind or something to just warm things up a bit here. I am so happy that there are folks joining us, among them old high school buddy Arcel Wary Jr. I'm going to have him on. Hey, buddy, thanks for joining. I hope that David Carter has joined us as well, others across other avenues, but drop in the comments so that we can have it in the recording where you are and what the temperature is like where you are. HR Passion LLC is bringing to you a special training module that you will be able to join at your leisure. And then there will be specific times that I will join the modules live. It will soon be open for you to go in at an introductory price, and we'll talk about that at some point later. But it will have several modules, which we've been talking about since December, kind of giving you some highlights on some of the modules. And we talked about your journey if you're looking for another position within your organization or without. 30, 60, 90-day journey. We've been talking about that. So that's a part of the module. How do you prepare for that? How do you decide how you're going to highlight your brand? How you decide what your resume is going to look like when you're applying? How you decide how you're going to respond to those questions, some of which will be behavioral-based interview questions. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about a part of the nugget in the middle, if you will. And we talked a little bit about it before, but we're going to give you a little bit more information today on networking. Which can be an important part of your journey. We believe that your net worth is a reflection of your network, right? And so you use your network to increase the value of your net worth. All right. You have a network, and you might think of it kind of narrowly as your friends and family. And that's true. That's probably a part, an important, significant part of your network. But there are other folks within your network, people with whom you do business regularly, people that you have been connected to through employment or otherwise. There are a lot of opportunities. And while you're building your brand, you need to deepen your relationships and connections. So build your brand in part by deepening your network and relationships. And so we're going to talk a little bit about networking. And I just want to share, as I see some folks are joining, I hope you will click share. Again, we are live on LinkedIn and on other platforms via Restream. And so we're hoping that you will join in. I have the pleasure of working in human resources and I have for over 24 years, going on 18 years with the city of Detroit. And no matter where I go, in whatever capacity that I'm serving, employees, former and current, candidates, former and current, inbox me or reach out to me or email me or call me and say, hey, are you hiring? Hey, I'm looking for a job. Hey, I'm looking for a position. That is their part of their network. They see me as part of their network and as a way to leverage me to increase their net worth, right? You want to obtain that job in that position. And so as I'm talking to various people and gleaning from them, because I think it's reciprocal, right? I'm gleaning from them, I'm finding out that people may not be broadening their networks in a way and deepening the connections thereby in a way that's going to increase their opportunities and probabilities of garnering that dream position. And your dream position can evolve and become a stepping stone to the next position. But in going after that position, you want to use everything that you have and not just your know-how and your resume. You want to use your network. So I wanted to share a quick story. I would have had this person live today on our show, but unfortunately, her grandfather passed away. He was affectionately known to their family as Big Daddy. I believe he was 96, just like our lovely, beloved, I call her our Grand T, Academy Award winner, Tony Award winner, iconic actress Cicely Tyson, who passed away. 96. I think they both were 96. And she is celebrating his life today. As a matter of fact, I just saw a piece of a video where she was singing a song in tribute to him. So shout out to Rashida, the Glam Dr. Williams, also known as the Glam Doctor in the makeup and hair community and all of that. And we'll get a chance to bring her on. But many years ago, as I feel that I've always been blessed to have some administrative savvy of sorts, many years ago, I had a community group of singers. Some will know that. And in this group, we had a board. I set up a board that the power of the board would be to make certain decisions. And I had a person who was over kind of the human resources, believe that or not, bringing members in and auditioning and making sure they were a right fit, right? Very early on. This was kind of when I first started foraying into human resources. And I had a person who was responsible for being the publicist and marketing person, and that was Rashida at a time. And Rashida is what I will describe as an ambivert, as I believe that I'm an ambivert as well. So you mostly hear of extrovert and introvert. And I want you to think of extrovert and introvert in this regard. What fuels you? Are you fueled by being in constant or consistent connection with people? Does that fuel you, refuel you? Or do you need your time away for fueling and refueling more than you need to be connected to people? So on those ends of the extreme, a person who needs that connection with people and it fuels them. You get excited when you're connected to people, right? You get excited being around people and that fuels you or refuels you. If you're feeling a little low and a group of your friends came over, before you know it, you won't even remember why you were feeling low. On the other hand, a person who is refueled by the time away might need time away to reflect and recharge and rethink. And that's what fuels them most, right? So looking at it that way, yeah, the what I just described was introverted and the former was extroverted. In the middle is an ambivert. You're refueled and fueled by both. Okay. And so I see myself as that, and Rashida as that as well. But at that time, being a young woman, she did not want to do this thing that I purpose as was a part of her job. So whenever the group would go to an engagement and sing, be it a concert hall, a church, a small church, large church, whatever, I would have a stack of business cards. Of course, now today, people may not spend as much time and money in business cards, but I'd have a stack of business cards. And at the end of the engagement, I would say to Rashida, here. And she said, what am I going to do with these? I said, you are going to take this business card to everybody in this room. You're going to work this entire room. And I don't want you to leave. We're not leaving to go to eat until you have gotten rid of all of these cards and you have as many cards or numbers. And she said, what? After a few engagements, Rashida was, because she was a natural, I kind of saw that she was a natural. She would have worked the entire room and would have connected people, said, oh, I just met somebody who needs that. Come over here with me and meet so-and-so. She was not only networking for the group to get future engagements and future business, she was connecting people together and she was having a ball. Now, the first couple of times, I will admit, she came back maybe out of these business cards with this many. And I said, oh no, we're not going to dinner until you get all of these are gone. I don't mean put them in your purse, Rashida. I mean, hand all of these out and have a return back. And I think that's an important component of networking is you have to be willing to give, or someone says it this way, you get what you give. So you have to be willing to give something to get something in return. And when you think of that, if you think of networking in that regard, whether you are an extrovert, an introvert, or an ambivert, if you go purposed with the idea that I'm going to get something in return because I'm going to give something of value, it will boost your confidence around having that initial connection. Because sometimes we don't think that we have anything of value to give, but you do. You have insight about a business. You have insight about an industry. You have some connections already. And so you may just go into a conversation seeking, how can I give in this networking situation? Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And I know you're not networking in a traditional sense these days, right? Because there aren't events like there were, but there are online events, right? And so I want to talk to you a little bit about the online events and how you might create some of your own, and just some tools about those meetings that you will have. All right, so click share to share this. This is a part of, I'm giving you some of the stuff on the periphery of the module 30, 60, 90-day plan that you can get to your next position, right? And so that will be a module that will soon be available to you. You can, it's going to be a module, a set of modules really that you can take at your leisure, but there will be points in the modules where I will do live presentations, and those will be published ahead of time, so you'll know when I'm doing specific live. But the modules have video content. And again, if you take them on specific days, there will be live content, me and other presenters who will come. Once you've completed all modules, the entire training, you'll be notified about a participation in an online live interview session where you'll get to be interviewed by hiring managers and folks in different fields that are different industries that are in HR, to give you feedback on the questions that you, the behavioral-based responses that you have crafted as a part of the module. So part of the module has work in it, right? We talked about, as a highlight to this, an intro to this, that we're going to use some psychology principles, easy for you to grasp and use, for you to design your responses. They're based on how you look at job context, your motivations for job context, your motivations for how you navigate and move in the job environment. And they're around three basic principles: achievement, affiliation, and status or power. Okay. And we'll go more in depth in the module about those. And we talked a little bit about those in December. So if you want to go back to the Marcus R. Holmes page on LinkedIn, you will find videos, and you will find a video that talks a little bit more in depth, that gives you a good introduction as we go into the module training. So we want you to look out for that when it will be open, and there will be an introductory offer that you won't want to refuse. All right, so click share and tag someone to join in that information. So this is great information, whether or not you're looking for a new job today, or you are a passive candidate, which means, I may be in the market. I'm interested in seeing what's out there. Or you are looking to go out and get new customers as a solopreneur, a serialpreneur, or entrepreneur, or you just want to deepen relationships and deepen connections in this virtual world, because we've all been impacted by this virtual world. Some years ago, I happened upon a tool. Me and a colleague of mine who reported to me were having some challenges, and we both started to look for tools that might help us to improve our interactions and thereby improving the interactions of the team. And we both happened upon the same tool. And it is a tool that you can start for free, but if your organization wanted to do more with it, of course, you'd have to have some discussion. I am in no way getting any commission for sharing this information. I am not a representative of this company, but I can tell you that this tool works. And I'm introducing it to you because you can go and do your own free one-time assessment, which will help you see yourself, but it will also help you to identify some traits in others when you are interacting with them and building relationship and building connections if you're on LinkedIn, and deepening those connections. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see a part of my information from this company. All right. Let's see. This company is Core Strengths, and you can go to their site, corestrengths.com. And I am showing you my core strength assessment, and I'm going to walk through a piece of it so that you understand exactly. Let me make sure it's showing. All right, I don't see it on the screen. All right, let me go back. Okay, it should be showing now, I hope. Okay, very good. That gives the assessment. What core strength does is take an assessment of your motives, your strengths, and how you behave in conflict. And for me, the goal was to bring forth my authentic self in every area of my life, right? And so because I'm bivocational, I work in human resources, I also work in music, there was a hybrid, and sometimes still is, of the person. But the goal is to bring your truest, authentic self forward and to improve it and improve the relationships that it impacts. Okay. So this is Core Strengths Results by Relationships. And I wanted to introduce it to you because your networking is going to be as valuable to you as the relationships that you build, deepen, and nourish. I love to say deepen. You could say grow relationship. I just believe that you deepen, you get roots down into your relationship, that strengthens it, that feeds it, right? Much like a tree, maybe. And the same for connections. And we'll talk a little bit about the connections, especially on LinkedIn. So this is my portrait. I am what's called a hub. So I am a mixture of people, performance, and process. I'm just about almost evenly spread, okay? Among people, performance, and process. So just a little less process, which is interesting for human resources, but it makes sense for me as an individual, because human resources is typically filled with processes, right? And core strengths talks a little bit about it. Once you do your portrait, it tells you some of the things. If your motive is people, it gives you some signs about whether or not your motive is people, right? Whether you prefer to put people first or you're orientated around people, it will tell you that once you take the assessment. If you're orientated around performance, you like to get things done and you like the people around you to get things done. You like the conversations to be around getting things done. You're a doer. You like things to get done. You might be impatient with people when they don't perform, when they don't get things done. And that's important to understand in networking, because you will meet some people that may not follow through on the networking. And you have to know how to still work with that individual to deepen the connection, because you want to give something to that connection, but you want it to feed you back. So you got to know who you're dealing with, get to know them. So of course, everyone won't have taken core strengths, but you will begin to identify some traits that are similar and dissimilar from you and how you might approach people who have those traits. Okay. So it'd be very good for networking. Process as well. People like things in a certain order. People like to follow the same process. People show you that they have a protocol for phone calls and returning calls. People show you that they prefer email and they're more responsive to email. You have to pay attention to those things. And that person might be telling you they like things a certain way every time. It's important to know that, so that you build cadence around how you communicate to people and you build structure around how you communicate to people. Okay. But first, we're really finding out about ourselves, right? And then we can learn from ourselves and see how we interact with others and see if they show us some of the same traits that we see in this portrait. Okay. Because it gives you a little information on that. It gives you your strengths. And my top 3 strengths are helpful, inclusive, and persuasive. Now, I've had many discussions with different people on teams that I manage, and they say, oh, your number 1 is persuasive. I think my number 1 is helpful, but it's helpful to hear from other people about what they think your strengths are. This tells your strengths based on, your responses. So of course you got to be honest in your responses, but it's always helpful to have those within your circle of influence to look at your portrait and say, okay, my strengths are helpful. Someone will say, yeah, you are helpful, but you might be a little bit more persuasive. So I'm going to just share and read some of the information on these top 3 strengths. You are an expert at spotting the unarticulated signal, SOS, meaning, somebody needs help. You, more than most others, tend to recognize when someone is in need and you do something about it. In fact, you almost have a 6th sense about it. You almost have a compulsion to help others. Anybody that knows Marcus, you might be sounding familiar. You're attuned to their needs and you don't hesitate to meet them. And who doesn't like that? If there's a downside to your strength, it's found when you help too much. We can talk about that a little bit. This may seem impossible to you, but occasionally some people don't want help. They don't want anyone to intervene. But the vast majority of the time, people respect and value your incredibly helpful attitudes and actions. How can I help? A day doesn't go by without you asking that question, and you feel great when people accept your help. So you can see there are plus and downsides to that. I want to bring value to people. I want to give, but sometimes that can enable or crutch people who should be able to figure it out themselves, right? It's kind of that savior mentality, right? And sometimes I can be in my feelings if I'm trying to help and someone doesn't want the help because I think you need the help, right? And so it's important to understand how the strength could, be a weakness. Inclusive. That's why diversity, equity, access, inclusion, and belonging are so important to me, not just as an HR professional, but in general, because one of my strengths for my strengths portrait is inclusive. You bring people together to share ideas and to collaborate. This holds incredible value for any team. Nobody feels left out, overlooked, or sidelined when you are around. You make sure that everyone gets a voice and a vote. You create a safe space for others to speak their mind, and people sense that you are sincere in the process. It's not a role or a task, it comes from the heart for you. None of us is as smart as all of us, right? The risk, of course, is that this kind of inclusion takes other people's time and can seem indiscriminate, like having too many cooks in the kitchen. But as long as you're managing this perception, you are sure to help every group or team perform at the top level. So you can see how, people could say, oh, this is time consuming hearing from everybody, but I want, before making the decision, to hear from everybody on the team. And we talk about that in the module because you can use that in your responses for things like decision making. Looking at the comments, some folks are joining us on Love and Stuff. Some folks are joining us on LinkedIn. Just drop in the comments who you are, where you are, and what. Well, I can see who you are if you comment. Especially on LinkedIn, I can't see you unless you comment. But drop your name in there and drop the city and the temperature. Valencia says, please reiterate the name of this analysis. Yes, it's Core Strengths, and you can do your first assessment for free. If your organization wants to do an assessment, tell them Marcus Holmes from HR Passion LLC sent you. I don't get an affiliate commission or cost, but I want them to know that I'm deepening the tool. I feel very proud that I found this tool and I introduced it to the city of Detroit. And now our talent development, performance management team, our learning team, is taking this. We have gotten them certified in this tool so they can certify you in the tool so that you can train the trainer. And we are deepening that throughout our organization. I think they're embedding it in the leadership development training and other trainings for the city. So I feel like I've made some contribution by helping define Core Strengths, which I think is a phenomenal organization. Shout out to them. And again, there isn't even a commission for this. I just think it's a valued work for you as an individual for networking, and for you as an individual who works on a team or who might lead teams. This would be great. This would be great for retreats. Come and facilitate it. Of course, Core Strength could facilitate it too. All right. So I want to make sure that you can go to corestrengths.com to try it. Okay. But I'm sharing mine because we can use this to deepen our network. Because again, your network is a reflection of your net worth. Net worth is a reflection of your net worth. My third strength, and again, this was my self-assessment. I always say, have someone else look at your assessment and say, I don't see this or I see that. This could be. So my number 3 is what most teams that I work with tell me should be my number 1. They say, you are very helpful. You are very inclusive, but you are very persuasive. You're at the top when it comes to convincing others to take a certain perspective. Your ability to influence others serves you and others on your team well. If there's a campaign to sell or an idea to pitch, you will be at the top of your game. You enjoy testing ideas and negotiating potential courses of action. Your negotiation strategies and techniques are second to none. I don't know about that. There's a chance that some people could see you as abrasive or manipulative. I've heard that before. That comes with the territory, but as long as you are sensitive to this perception, I'm working on that sensitivity, right? You can course correct quite easily. You can almost always find a way to persuade others. More than most, you hear comments like, I see your point, or I hadn't thought of it that way, and you're making good sense. So I do hear those comments sometimes. Yes, Valencia, I agree with you. I'd love to talk a little bit more with you about this Core Strengths because there is an initial investment, of course, if you're going to do it for your organization. But I think the return on the investment, and I'm sure I can get some case studies again from Core Strengths. Again, I was able, as a persuader, to persuade the person that could say, yes, pay for this. And it has been a return on investment, not just for human resources, but again, our learning team has been certified in it and adopted it and is delivering it to other departments with what I understand are some great successes. So I'd be happy to provide more information. So here's my strengths portrait. So the higher you go, I'm most likely to use at work. The lower you go, the least likely I am to use at work. Okay. And remember, I'm a hub, which means I'm people, almost equally people, performance, and process. So those are the 3 scales, if you will, that we look at how you operate in relationship. Okay. And it's important for people to understand this about me, and me to use this as a tool to give me glimmers about other people. Okay. So when I click on any of these things, it gives me a description. Okay. Okay. So it gives you some information that you can use when you go into a networking situation that other people might possess. So you start to have a social awareness, not just about how you show up in environments and situations, but how others show up as well. Okay. And then it gives you some communications tips. Uh-oh. I hope it didn't show that. Okay. Well, it doesn't really show it. Tips for meetings, messages, conversations, your effective style, and things to avoid. So if you learn somebody is a hub, seems to be people, performance, and process, you might want to avoid disregarding the group think. The group think will be important to someone who says, well, I want to hear more opinions. That person is telling you that people's opinions are important to them. Well, before I get involved, can I run this by a couple of other of my colleagues? That's kind of telling you someone is groupthink is important to that person. Okay. Someone says, yeah, when can we get this done? I want a deadline. That person's performance. They don't want a lot of fluff. They want to get right to the skinny of it. Okay. Someone that's process oriented might say there's a protocol, right? Okay, well, before we schedule this meeting, I should talk to my boss, and maybe you should send my boss an email and copy me on it. They're telling you that they look for a certain protocol, and you want to follow their lead on that. Okay. So this is a great assessment. I think each of you can take for free, so that you can learn first about yourself. And you can use this portrait when you go into your networking, whether you are, as we started out saying, introverted, extroverted, or an ambivert. Okay. And again, that's corestrengths.com. So whether, again, you are introverted, extroverted, or ambiverted, you want to use your profile to go into the networking situations. Now, on LinkedIn, there are tons of groups that you can join by industry, by interest, right? But most of you probably already have your circle of networks. Even on Facebook, those of you on Facebook, there are groups, right? There are some professional groups on Facebook. I see that Katrina Reed Bland on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us. She's in Sterling Heights and it's 25 degrees. Katina, I'm sorry. Ask somebody to send us some warm weather, please. Can we get a little? I know it's almost February, so it gets cold, but hey, we need a quick break. Send us some warm weather to Michigan, please, wherever you are. But so now we're going to talk a little bit. We're right at the half hour. We're talking about. We started talking about our module that will soon come out, and there's a 30, 60, 90-day component to it. We talked about there is an application component. There's a resume component. It's 57 in Houston. Send us about 15 of those degrees, Valencia. It's an application component. There is a research component. There is a branding component, how you look and how you present. There is a crafting your responses to interviews component. There is a networking component, okay? And you don't want to stop networking once you got that coveted interview. You don't want to stop the networking, okay? Even if it's an interview where you feel like you got, the best interview that you've had in your life, you want to continue that networking while they are considering you among other candidates. Okay? It's not trolling. It is not infringing upon the process. It's continuing to reveal more of your authentic self to deepen connections with people that can make the decision that you want or who can influence the decision that you want. So it does not stop with the normal email. Thank you so much for interviewing me. And you might even craft that email in a special way. If there's some industry fact that came up in the factoid that came up in the interview, or something you shared of interest and it's an article, you might include that article in the thank you communication. I loved our discussion about this in the interview, and I thought I would just share this article that I thought was really relevant. Or if that person is an author, the hiring manager, you might say, I reread your article on this and I got this new glimmer. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to connect with you and interview. You continue grooming that connection. And it might not be directly with that individual. It might be a like or comment on one of their posts on LinkedIn, or to someone else on the interview panel, or to that HR professional, or someone else within the organization, so that you keep your brand before the panel who is considering. Some are going to be done with their consideration at the end of that interview event, but some are going to continue in discussions of consideration over the pool of candidates. So your networking does not end. It is an ongoing thing. It is energy that you're going to put into it because it's going to bring a return on your investment. You're going to give value to get. You get what you give, right? You're going to give value by saying thank you, which is a give of value, believe it or not. When you thank someone, they almost want to do something to get more thanks. And when you do something for someone, there's a psychological principle that says they almost feel obligated to do something for you in return. So you step into your networking to give values. When you think about that, and you think about your connections on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you think about gathering them together in this environment, right? So you're going to use a tool like Zoom, right? You're going to do a networking event. You're going to schedule an event on Facebook or on YouTube events or on Twitch TV or on LinkedIn. And you're going to invite your connections. And you need to invite the connections who you can give some value to. One of the things I love and I experience over and over and over again, as I'm connecting with people that some I've never met except on LinkedIn, we're in the same organization, we worked at the same company, or whatever the connection is, they wrote an article that I enjoyed and I commented on it. When I connect with them, some of them will say, hey, can we jump on the call for 15 minutes to get to know each other? I love that deepening of the connection. And I almost always make time for that because I believe it's a great thing to be asked out, if you will, right? I make time for that connection because I might learn something from that individual, and some of them have turned into some great business propositions for me. I always opt to, you don't have to. Again, I am an ambivert. I am both fueled by being extroverted and introverted, but more toward extroverted. Okay. So right now, it's a struggle for me not to be able to touch people and hug people and, yes, kiss people. I am very social in that way. Some people say, I didn't know Mr. Holmes. And if I am reserved at all, it's because I am in human resources, and sometimes you don't want to give the wrong impressions, right? But I'm a touchy, huggy kind of guy. And so in being in a networking situation, it's important to the extent I can to replicate that online with people and making connection. But people are zoomed out is where I was trying to get you to. So I'm going to give you some tips about the zoomed out a little bit. But that introduction, I was going to say, of bringing me and an individual together, people often say, let's jump on a call. What I do, again, because I'm an extrovert mostly, I say, yeah, I give them my Ring Central. I have a Ring Central account. You got a Zoom account. You can do it on your phone. Most phone have Zoom right on the phone already downloaded as a suite of the apps already there, right? I send them a Zoom link, or now I send them a Ring Central link. Ring Central is my HR Passion LLC, 888-391-0213. I send them that link, and it's a video chat, right? Because I want to see the individual. I want to see their inflections and do more than hear their tone, right? You might be okay with the phone call and whatever works best for you, whatever is most comfortable for you. But for me, I like to see to read the person. My dad would always say, watch and see. It took me a long time to understand what he was saying, but I need to watch and see the person, to read the body language, to read the essence of the individual, okay? And so I do a 15-minute call and we talk about everything, anything that we feel comfortable talking about. And we learn sometimes of the things that we have in common and how we can deepen the connection. And most recently I had such a call and the person said, how do you think I could bring more value to you? I loved it, right? Who doesn't want more value to be brought to you? One-on-one is a great question. Hey, we've connected, we've met, we put a face with the name outside of just the LinkedIn connection. Now, how can I bring more value to you? There might be some things apparent, but don't you for once think that that person doesn't already have on their mind the value they could bring to you. So you share and then you listen to hear what value they hope to bring to you. And that you want to evaluate and determine if it's worth deepening the connection, and what you want to write down and capture, however you capture stuff. Sometimes I have a photographic memory and I can photograph the words. It's a gift from God. But you do that because if you can bring that value to them by letting them bring it to you, which means they want access to your connections, right? Or they want access to your business, right? Or they want access to some input or information. If you can bring that to them, they're going to work hard to deepen their connection with you. So you listen intently for the thing that they want to bring to you. And sometimes it's not something that you want. And you have to be forthright and say, it's not something I want. I don't want a financial advisor right now, though I think that might be helpful in the future. But I do have a few people that I could gather together and maybe you could do a presentation. You will see from their body language, you will hear in their tone of voice that they have gotten you, right? But you really got them because you really are a source of value to them now. And they're going to do what they can to deepen that connection. It might seem superficial, it might seem, but you never know if you're unlocking value to them or truly you are unlocking value to yourself by being connected to them. You might say, hey, I brought to you 3 or 4 clients. We should work out a commission arrangement. We should work out a presentation where we do a seminar live and you charge a fee for it and I get a percentage of that fee. Those are business opportunities, maybe. Or you say, hey, I really, don't really need retirement advice, but I'm thinking about financing this deal. How could I do that? Could you help me or connect me to someone who might have financial expertise in that area? They're unlocking value to you now. And it's deepening the connection because you're going to always want to do for someone that's doing for you. And that's one way that you can build that one-on-one, okay? It only helps to layer on top of that your assessment of people, performance, and process, because you can begin to assess them, what's most important to them, what are triggers for them, which we'll go more into in the module. I didn't talk about in conflict, how that assessment. I showed you my portrait for strengths and communication tips and motives. I didn't show you how those motives operate in conflict, which is another thing that you want to learn a little bit about as you're getting into an interview process. Not because you want to create conflict, but if a conflict arises where they're drilling down further into your answers, They're really trying to see if you really did what you said you did in the interview session. There are some tools that you can bring forward to maintain your composure and still reiterate or give them more information. And we help you with that in the interview session, module, if you will. But all of that is important when you are having these networking opportunities. I'm going to share my screen again. We're at 12:44, and I'm sharing you some of the highlights of something that you'll get in the module and some stuff you can use today for networking, because we're in an environment, right, where we're online. I'm talking to you online, though I probably would for the people that are overseas, those that are in the CHRO partners from Facebook. I forgot to tag you in this. And those that are in Hacking HR are worldwide. So I'm so excited to be part of both of your fine organizations, along with the Society of Human Resources Management and the HR Certification Institute, of which I hold certifications. But I'm excited to have all of you, but I wouldn't probably be face-to-face, right? Our networking would be at an event. Well, there are tons of events for you to enjoy on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. But how about a networking event that you create for yourself among the connections that you have and their connections? You could set up an event and invite people to have a discussion or have a meet and greet around any topic that would be of interest and value to them. So it isn't a networking event to just get to know me. Yes, you do want them to get to know you, but you want an event that is going to bring them value for coming. So you got to do a little research around your groups, the groups that you're part of or that you join for this purpose. And I'm not against that, joining a group to deepen your network, but get engaged in at least one of the conversations and research it a little bit. And then create an event, say, hey, this part of this topic resonated with me. Does anyone have 30 minutes to come together and enlighten each other on it? Tag specific people and say, I know you're a thought leader in this area, and I would love to hear from you. And invite them to your event. And as people confirm, go back and post in the event, say, great, that so-and-so confirmed, tag them in it. I can't wait to hear what you think about this. Okay? And I'm going to share my screen because I want to just share. Zoom has some tips about more mindful meetings. And there's a checklist. You can get this from Zoom. Or if you inbox me, I'd be happy to share it. It's a checklist. I think it's a 2-pager. Of course, you're only going to make a meeting if it's necessary, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. Make sure you can see it. I didn't see it shared on the screen. Okay, let's get it shared on the screen, please. All right, I think it is sharing on the screen. One of my biggest pet peeves is a meeting that doesn't need to be a meeting. But sometimes you don't have a control of what people say they need the meeting for. I try my best not to have meetings if I don't think that we need to have a meeting, one that could be done in an email or a phone call. But, you know, hey, we're in an environment where people feel, hey, you're sought. You're going to be worth your salt if you're holding a meeting. Okay? But I would challenge you to think on this. Is this meeting necessary? Only call a meeting if you have a clear purpose or goal. You're not having a meeting to clarify the goal necessarily. Collaboration and open discussion are essential to achieving your goal. So if you already know what you want to do, and you already know who you're going to assign to do it, and you already know the metrics by which you're going to assign it, and nothing that anybody is going to tell you is going to change it, you might not need a meeting for that. But if you want to hear their input to collaborate that might impact the goals or the deadline or the scope of the project or program, then you should have a meeting where you want everybody that you invited to have some input. If that's not the case, trim down the meeting list. Or you need to discuss something that's complex or sensitive. Those would be great reasons to have a meeting. If those don't exist, you got to ask yourself, Why can't I use the instant messenger, Slack, or quick phone call or email? Okay. Same thing with a networking. Are you going to invite people to have a voice and do something? Why are you inviting them? What needs to be discussed? Okay. Don't meet just so you can say, I'm gonna get people in a room and see what their reaction is to what I'm saying. If you're not going to incorporate that reaction to get the best goal, because the diverse opinion should inform the best goal, you got to rethink whether or not you should have something coming together. Check your invite list, make sure everybody has responded or not. Follow up with the people that haven't responded. Say, hey, does this time work for you? Can we count on your presence? Create that agenda. Hey, for 30 minutes, we're going to talk about this. It's going to be a free for all. I'd love it if you could talk about this. Okay, this person's agreed to talk about this. Let's divvy up some time. If 30 minutes is not long enough, or if it's too long, maybe you can have a meet and greet with 5 people, and each of them are going to talk a couple of minutes. Maybe 30 minutes is too long. Get yourself focused. If you meditate or pray, do yoga so that you can be present. One of the important things in a networking event, one-on-one or otherwise, is to be present. When one person is talking, they ascribe this to former President Bill Clinton. They say, when you are in a conversation with Bill Clinton, it is as if only you and he are talking. And I have adapted that, or tried to, for many years. When one person is talking to me, I give that one person my attention as if they're the only person in the room. And you do that, and you look directly into this camera like I'm looking now, as if you're looking into the eyes of that one person. And you envision that one person's face. Instead of looking here, look right into the camera as if you're talking to that one person. And at the beginning of that sentence or end of that sentence, mention that person's name. You know, that was a great point, Valencia. Katina, the part of that I don't quite agree with, I'm looking directly into the camera as if I'm talking directly to the individual. And I know you're looking around the room to get people's expressions. And sometimes you might fixate on one person as they're talking, but when you speak back to them, look directly into that camera and call their name and gesture and pause and leave that awkward silence to watch body language and to hear their breath. And when you're disagreeing, argue with the argument. I use the word argument loosely, debate with the debate, not the debater, right? So one of the things that I would do in a room full of people, if it is getting passionate and maybe I disagree with the person and I'm working on this, and I would invite you to do the same, I would look into the camera as if I'm talking directly to that person, envisioning their face. And I'll say, well, Katrina, I don't agree with that. Here's my challenge with that. I'm gesturing in my thoughts as if Katina is over to this way. I'm gesturing in the opposite place. And one of the reasons I do that is to separate from Katina the thing I disagree with, because I don't want her to think I disagree with her. I really disagree with what she's saying. I want to make her my ally. And the thing that I disagree with, I want it to now become her adversary. I want her to see herself as being separate from the point so that she doesn't personalize it so. But you got to still do that communication when you are networking in a room full of people. When someone is speaking, even if you're watching other people's reaction to that, you might go to that person and say, hey, Val, I'm just using a name. Hey, Val, I see that your body language says that you have something to say. Fixate on that person. Or if you feel that voices are being underheard or underrepresented or even quelched, you say, hey, wait, hold on one moment, Dan. I want to get in a point I think Val is trying to raise. Thanks so much for sharing the space with us. Hey, Val, what were you going to say? Then you point to Val, wherever she is on your screen, to acknowledge that she is a part of the conversation. Hey, I haven't heard today from you, Karen. You're kind of taking a lot in. I know sometimes we process a lot of information different ways. Is there anything that you wanted to add to anything you've heard so far? And leave that silence. And if someone goes to jump in and say, I'm sorry, I was really trying to get Karen involved. I'm really about hearing everyone's voice. And I'm sure you share that commitment, Dan. And go back to Karen to make sure everybody's heard. Okay. You can start it out with an icebreaker or small talk. As I often try to do, I do most times with the weather because people are around the world. Something that might not delve too personally to somebody, or maybe something around a holiday that's coming up. And you might say, hey, I celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday. Did you celebrate that? Hey, did you do anything special? Small talk. I just talked about encouraging participation. You might work to help people stick to the agenda. When I was in person, I'd have people put a sticky note in the center of the table when someone was getting off point. And that was that person's signal that they were off point. And the more people that put sticky notes, it kind of became a little humorous after everybody got used to it. And they said, oh, I'm sorry, we're off point. Then people took their sticky note back. You can find ways to do that in a meeting room as well. We talked a little bit about running an inclusive meeting. You can send highlights afterwards to everybody. Thanks for coming to this networking. Here's what I learned. Anybody else want to contribute something? I'll add it to this document and we can keep it or share with others in our network, which would be open to another network a month out. By the way, I'm thinking about a career move. Anybody want to talk with me one-on-one? You've given value, now get some value out of it. Okay? So I wanted to share that with you as well. We're right at 12:55. These are some of the highlights of information that you'll get if you participate in the module. I want to go back and just encourage you to go to corestrengths.com. If you reach out to one of the representatives, be sure to tell them that Marcus Holmes sent you. Again, I'm not an affiliate, nor do I get commissions, but I am available if you'd like to have a small group session with yourself or someone in your organization and go through how you can use core strength to power your relationships and gain results through relationships. Let me know if this information is helpful to you and or to your organization. HR Passion loves to bring people together as a connector with their passion and things that can drive their passion. And I believe that we are a collective of relationships, that you and I as individuals have a unique part of us that is a collection of our experiences and the relationships they're attached. So it would do us well to deepen those connections, improve those connections, and deepen those relationships. The deeper you can go into a relationship, the more vulnerable, transparent, and growth you might achieve. And that will be pervasive throughout your life. And so I am hopeful that as you seek to get results through relationships, that you won't just look at it as relationships with your spouse or relationships with your life partner, relationships with your significant other, relationships with your children or your parents. All of those are important relationships. But when you think of broadening your network, I want you to think of ways that you can use this tool that we've discussed and other resources to deepen your connections on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitch TV and YouTube, even though you're not face-to-face, and then deepen and build those relationships so that you increase and enhance your net worth. You will find that many of the things that you need to bring your dreams to fruition are within a few degrees of separation, and you just haven't nurtured those pipelines of value that are ready to come through a funnel to you. Now you can do that, whether you're on a 30, 60, 90 day to get to that next position or that promotion, or whether you are trying to get a greater market share when customers and clients, or you're ready to deepen and enrich your relationships with your colleagues and your boss. You have an opportunity to warm up those relationships and get results through those relationships through networking. I hope that you will follow us on LinkedIn. We are LinkedIn Live today and via Restream on Facebook, Twitch TV, and YouTube events. Follow us on LinkedIn, Marcus R. Holmes. There is also an HR Passion page, a Love Over Racism page. If you are really committed to racial equity, you can join us there by clicking follow. With initiatives that we are working on. Many of them are behind the scene, but we're trying to bring them forward, and we just need more resources. That's what we need, and you could be a resource for that. If you would like more information on core strengths, you can inbox me at Marcus R. Holmes on any of those platforms. Of course, I'm HR Passion Guy on Twitch TV and YouTube. We are Loving Stuff and Marcus R. Holmes on Facebook, and we are Marcus R. Holmes, as I said, on LinkedIn Live. On LinkedIn and live today on LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this content, click share and tag someone to follow us or to come every Friday at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time, where we have guests or we have topics. Right now, we're helping you in your vision for the next position, customer acquisition, or opportunity through 30, 60, 90-day plans. And we hope that you will join us on this journey and share your success stories, as we know you will have them if you follow this. Have a grateful weekend. And speaking of grateful, we're not many days away from our first book. We are excited. We're wrapping up the editing of it so that we can get it to Amazon. You'll be able to purchase that book. It is The Gratefulness Journey Every Day. What are you doing in the next 30 days to transform your life? It's a part of my personal account of how I've come to a gratefulness journey through a family of 7 that's now a family of 2. And I want you to really understand my journey and some simple steps that you can incorporate to make yourself a more grateful individual and to lead a more grateful life. Have a grateful weekend. Thank you so much for joining us.